Link up with Ashama Moimodu and Tijesu Adeoye in our Abuja studios for FCT Brief. Good morning, and how is Abuja this morning? Security issues, isn't it?
Good morning, Etoma. It's good to hear from you. Missing Veronica already.
Good morning, Etoma, and good morning, colleagues.
Of course, we're discussing security this morning.
Yeah, just before we go, give you what we have for the day. Yesterday, the PDP had their NEC meeting.
Yeah, fantastic development.
After the letter from Samuel Anyanwu that the meeting has been postponed, they still went on with the meeting.
Well, it's a good one that they are moving forward and, not dwelling on petty issues. I believe that they have picked a date for their convention, which is a good step in the right direction.
The convention is August 28 to 30 of this year.
Yes, and chairman of the zoning committee has already been appointed. The chairman for the convention committee
zoning committee, Governor Doyediri of Bayelsa.
Yes.
Chairman for the convention committee, Governor Amadu Fintiri of Adamawa. And also the NEC resolved that, okay, we will consider the petition from the Southeast Zonal Executive for the position of the national chairman. They were agitating that they don't want Anyanwu, they want another person. And NEC said, okay, we'll fix another date for another next convention. Next NEC meeting will be June 30. And I think it may be remotely connected with the fact that INEC, we learned that INEC still has the name of Anyanwu as the national secretary. And INEC said, according to feelers that came in, that INEC said, look, we need 21 days notice if you want us to be present at your NEC meeting. So the next NEC meeting is to give INEC 21 days notice to be present at that meeting, where they will formally take position to probably relieve Anyanwu of the secretaryship and give it to another person.
Well, positive steps in the right direction. I just hope this will bench the talks about a one-party state. At least we see the major opposition party moving ahead.
Try to reposition itself.
Yes. So
okay, now let's go into what we have for you today. Now, good morning, Nigeria, and thanks for joining us on FCT Brief, reaching you live from our Abuja studios. With over 4,000 kilometers of boundary lines and numerous unofficial entry points, securing Nigeria's borders remains a critical and complex issue. From the northern frontiers with Niger to the southern coastlines along the Atlantic, many of these border areas are poorly manned, leaving room for serious national security threats, smuggling, illegal migration, arms trafficking, and even terrorism. According to a report by the Nigerian Immigration Service, there are more than 1,400 illegal entry points into the country, most of them completely unmanned. Security experts say this porous nature of the borders has fueled insurgency in Northeast, contributed to banditry in the Northwest, and opened doors for arms proliferation across the country. The question then is, what's standing in the way of effective border control?
Experts have long advocated for the deployment of modern technology like drones, surveillance cameras, and satellite monitoring to help secure these spaces. Others are also advocating for a community-based intelligence, claiming that many borders communities know what's going on. They just need to be empowered and included in the nation's security architecture. Meanwhile, the federal government says it is taking steps. Recently, the Minister of Interior announced a new border patrol strategy involving joint operations between immigration, customs, and the military. But despite that move, critics argue that unless these efforts are backed with real investments, personnel training, and political will, the problem will persist. It is clear that at the heart of the matter is national security, and without firm control of the borders, the safety and sovereignty of Nigeria remains at risk. To help us understand some of these challenges and the way forward on securing our borders, we have in the studio the former head of Media Nigeria Immigration Service, who doubles as a border and security management expert, ACG James Sunday, retired. It's good to have you in our studio this morning.
Thank you very much, TVC and Esho.
Nice to have you.
All right, it's good to have you. Well, Nigeria's land border stretches over 4,000 kilometers, and it is nearly impossible to put, security agents to man these borders. Even unrealistic is building a physical wall to secure our borders. So how can modern technology like drones and satellite and sensors help us, close these gaps and better secure our borders?
Thank you very much. In an interconnected world, the world is a global village, and the border of one country extends into the other. So it would be a mistake for any individual to think that the border of Nigeria just ends at Nigeria-Niger border, Nigeria-Chad border, Nigerian-Cameroon border, Nigerian-Benin Republic border, or at the Bay of Benin with the Atlantic. Nigerian border ends inside Niger. As we are bordering Nigeria and Niger. So if our relationship with Niger is not in order, definitely there must be loophole somewhere. Nigerian border ends in Chad, not where there's demarcation or delineation. The actual definition of border means the separation between two countries because of their sovereignty and independence. But when it comes to the area of mobility and migration, it extends into another country. That's why you have the land border, you have the air border, and you have the maritime border. The air border is being controlled by ICAO, International Civil Aviation Authority, that gives definition to the operation of airlines and airspace operation. The International Maritime Organization, with the International Maritime Law, controls the maritime space. And the land border is being controlled on the ground by the agencies responsible for control of movement of people in and out of the country. And Nigerian Immigration Service happens to be the lead agency. Nigerian Immigration Service deals with human mobility. And when we talk about border, the customs deals with good, but the good cannot move itself unless a human being moves it. So every facility or every item that moves across the border must be taken across by a human being. And the human beings are controlled by law. So while you now have the human being not observing the law and trying to circumvent the law, that is where you have the issue of irregular migration, where an individual will prefer to take routes that are not recognized. That is what people call porous border. But professionally, there's no porous border anywhere. There are two major kinds of spaces that operate within the border sphere. The unmanned space and the ungoverned space. The unmanned space is by description, is the area that is uncovered because of the large expanse of land. Okay. Like we have about 4,000 plus square kilometer of land in Nigeria. The officials of immigration service, their number, joining hand to hand together, cannot man the whole of the landmass. So definitely there must be deployment of drones, surveillance camera, that's advanced cameras. There must also be the deployment of geospatial facility, which means the Nigerian Immigration Service must work hand in hand with other agencies that are responsible for other advanced monitoring of the border, like the Center for Defense Space Administration. They have control over the defense space. And they have facilities that can cover as much more than what facility the immigration is having, because that is their own statutory assignment. Okay. The Nigerian Immigration Service also has its own command and control center that was first tested and proven in 2021 when the technology building was built.
Okay, just before we go deep into that, let's take a look at those who have the primary responsibility to man our border. You just rightly talked about the immigration. We have the customs, we have the NCDC, we have the military. Now, when we say the border is porous, like we do have infiltration, if you talk of the Boko Haram, you talk of the herdsmen, the people say they come in outside Nigeria, does that also suggest that all these agencies that have the constitutional responsibility are failing in their responsibilities in manning our border? Because somebody has a job to do, and if the job is not done, we hold the person responsible.
Thank you very much. The border that we're talking about is the land border. Because when we're talking about security and insecurity, it is more defined and more pronounced on the land border and the waterways. So let's go down to the land border, where the Nigerian Immigration Service happen to be the lead agency and the Customs Service. The Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, they don't have mandate for the border. Okay. The Nigerian Army also don't have mandate for the border unless there is aggression. Unless there's extra aggression, just like we're having the bandits and the terrorists. That now led to the next issue, which has to do with unmanned space. The area occupied presently, that's been occupied presently by the bandits and terrorists are ungoverned space. Ungoverned in the sense that there cannot be existence of human being apart from those who are conscripted around those areas, because there's firepower exchange between the military and the bandits or the terrorists. So you cannot expect a normal human being to crisscross in between the firepower. So it makes it ungoverned, because you cannot do anything around that area, because the other side are the bandits and terrorists, and this other side of the country are the military. So for now, what makes the military to be relevant at the border is because of the insecurity. And because the regular border security agencies cannot handle the bandits and the terrorists. So that space has to be given to the military until it is occupied and taken over. And then the people are now brought back for rehabilitation and for settlement. Then the conventional security agencies, that's the immigration and the customs, can now move back. But for now, they have to move behind the military to certain kilometers within the hinterland. You cannot leave the border empty. So even while the military are carrying out their operation at the border, in the ungoverned areas, the strategic agencies will have to also strategize to locate their officers at areas where they are anticipating that there could be leakages in the hinterland for interception, for monitoring, and for surveillance. Then on the waterways, the Navy, because of the statutory assignment given to them, they are in charge. The Lake Chad water is drying up because of the climate change. So it has helped so much to have less of the water, so there is enough area to cover on ground. So while the military are doing their best to make sure that they take over all those areas where the terrorists are using for crisscrossing, the immigration and the customs are also manning the border.
All right.
I was privileged to be the zonal coordinator in Northeast, and I visited Borno and Yobe. Physically, I can tell you that the border is not porous, the border is being manned, but these individuals know this terrain more than us.
Well, if you say that the borders are being manned and they are not porous, I would like to know the level of cooperation between Nigeria and other neighboring countries in terms of border security. What is the level of cooperation? Is it strong enough, to man and secure these borders?
The unity of... We have three kinds of borders. That's where you are going to understand the reason why there must be interrelationship. We have the global border, which has to do with the universal space. If you are leaving Nigeria to US, you must take a plane from Nigeria that will land at an airport in any of the airports in US. There's a control in the airspace. That's the air border. So if there's no cooperation between Nigeria and US, definitely you cannot travel because maybe there could be some sanctions. So back home, within the region, there's the ECOWAS arrangement that's on the ground. And every member nation, because of the abolition, can travel into the member state with valid travel document, but not necessarily with visa, because there's visa abolition. And there's freedom, there's the freedom to establish business, and the freedom also to reside within the community, because it's called a community. and they are called citizens of the member state. So, but where there's an issue of possibly, like the Niger issue, definitely protocol and diplomacy must be the order of the day, because we cannot afford to have issue with Niger, with Chad, with Cameroon, and Benin Republic, because they are immediate neighbors. And there's an adage that says, you rather make friendship with your enemy than to make him your enemy, because you will have more problem. So diplomacy is the order of the day. And then for a proper understanding, Niger cannot do without Nigeria. Chad cannot do without Nigeria. Cameroon cannot do without Nigeria. Benin Republic cannot do without Nigeria. Neither can Nigeria do without them. So we must work together for us to make sure that those borders are secured. Because the border is a symbol of sovereignty and independence. Right. So once it's abused, the sovereignty will be abused and the independence will be sabotaged.
All right, we still have more to discuss on this, but we'll take this quick commercial break now. Don't go anywhere. There's more after this break. Stay with us.
Life is politics. In Nigeria, almost every part of...
Oh yeah, meet the new jig sachets to make everywhere shine well. No dey tear pocket again. It dey make all your white clothes shine, not be small. And it dey summer all the nyama where they cause sickness inside house. Use jig where they inside sachet to make everywhere set one time. Just jig 'em.
Some say learning is fun, but as a mom, I see how demanding it can be for my child. That's why I ensure he starts every day with a cup of Bonvita. Bonvita. Prepare them to win every day.
Shield your families from germs. When Dettol is a part of every household bucket, then you and your family can stay protected from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday use of Dettol keeps my loved ones protected.
We're glad to have you back. You're still watching TVC Breakfast, and this is FCT Brief. We're still discussing border security, and we still have with us in the studio ACG James Sunday, retired.
Yeah, ACG, earlier you said Nigerian border is not porous. I want to contest that a bit. Then where do we have the this infiltration by terrorists? It's not from the unmanned, the ungoverned space, because they're also coming through the neighboring countries, they maybe through Niger, some of them coming. These herdsmen, they keep coming in, and we keep having all this infiltration coming in, and probably even the and smuggling. And if you say the border is not porous, then what happens when these people come in? Do we notice them when they come in? Why don't we nab them at the entering points?
As big as the United States and Mexico, you discover that even the border is not completely sealed. That's why they keep having migrants into the US. So when I say the border is not porous, it's just like being in a cockpit like this. You will not allow your house to be open and you go to sleep. But that does not mean that the thief that want to burgle your house wouldn't know what to do, because he might have carried out enough surveillance to know the weak point in your house. So when I say professionally that the border is not porous, means that the security officials that are detailed to man the border cannot go to sleep with their eyes closed, because they just feel they are comfortable. When somebody is said to be, when the border is said to be porous, it means you are neglecting the statutory assignment, which has to do with managing border security and migration management. It's not possible. Once the tools are given to you, you are paid your salary and you are deployed. Then the onus lies on you to ensure that the border is safe.
But when corruption now comes in and you neglect your responsibility because of certain inducements, does that not give into the porous nature?
It now somebody then has to be responsible. There must be an action review. If an officer or an individual is caught having gone out of order to be corrupt, then the action review will also go to the supervisor on the kind of training, on the kind of discipline, and the kind of guidance. Because while I was at the border, I can tell you vividly, as zonal coordinator, I was in charge of Adamawa, Bauchi, Borno, Gombe, Yobe, and Plateau. And I designed a platform where every local government within these 6 states must deliver to me on the app the information on happenings in the local government. I'm not even talking of the state. The state controller gets the report as I'm getting the report as the zonal coordinator. And I thank the officer immediately to encourage them more. Thank you very much for this information. There's a young lady at Gujuba that's always waking me up with an alert of information. And I will send a message to her. Thank you very much. Well done. And that encouraged that officer to do what she needs to do professionally without necessarily compromising. So if you as the henchman is actually up to your task and you are actually doing what you are sent to do and your officers know that you are very disciplined, there's no how somebody will get corrupt under you. But corruption is something that once the head is bad, then the body gets spoiled. So the head must be in order for the body to follow. So I'm just giving you an example with what operates under me. Within the span of time I worked, no single officer was caught collecting money because they know definitely they will sit up, because if the sheriff does not collect, then there's no reason why the constable should collect.
I think I like the angle you're taking there with the example you cited. I hope that other officers also take a cue from that. Well, since the Minister of Interior, Olabumi Tunji Ojo, assumed office, we've seen, some reforms and new policies that he has put in place. Would you say these efforts have helped, in better securing our borders and helped with national security and internal security as well?
A lot has been done under the dispensation of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who happened to be a technocrat and a leader extraordinary. So any person working under him must toe the line. But with respect to the Ministry of Interior and Immigration, there must be delineation. The Ministry of Interior is a supervising ministry. The Nigerian Immigration Service is an enforcing agency. They must be allowed to implement and enforce. The service should be allowed to speak for itself. When you are doing something, then you speak. But when it is the ministry speaking, definitely people must suspect foul play. So the minister should please allow the Controller General of Immigration Service to act and operate as appointed, because that is the mandate given to her. And then she'll be able to tell the world that this is what I've done, because somebody must be responsible for something. So if the appointee is not speaking and somebody else is speaking on behalf of the appointee, definitely you don't have anybody to hold responsible. So the service is supposed to be allowed to enforce, because operational assignment is for the service, the ministry is policy making.
Are you suggesting that the minister is interfering in the affairs of the immigration service?
From the little experience of having been the head of media for 4.5 years, there is no Minister of Interior that has ever stopped the CG from speaking, particularly on issues that has to do with the service. But in recent times, I hardly hear the public relations officer speaking.
And is that the fault of
I hardly also see the service chief, that's the Controller General, also speaking without the minister actually speaking on their behalf.
So could it be that it's the fault of the minister? Or it's just
I've advised that they should allow the service to work. Let the service speak on whatever she's doing. Whatever the service is delivering, let them tell the public. Because that's why you have an appointee called a service PRO.
So the service must be allowed to speak.
There must be a delineation. Yes, there must be a separation of power. The ministry supervises and make policy, and the service enforces and implements policy.
Now let's talk about the capacity of the Nigerian Immigration Service when it comes to securing the border. Do they have capacity in modern technologies, in deploying modern technologies, in helping to secure the border?
Nigerian Immigration Service is one of the most modern services in this country. Far back 2021. The technology building at the headquarters of Immigration Service houses the command and control center that was tested and proven. You can see the various points that was tested that time from the control center at the immigration headquarters, you can speak to an officer at the border. You can physically see the borderline. You can see the officer's movement.
You have that in place?
Yes, even when the border was closed. Those facilities were used to monitor far back 2021 under the then Controller General of Immigration Service, Muhammad Wandedi, the 16th Controller General of Immigration Service. So, deployment of facility is not the issue. Technology is not the issue. We have the best ICT officers in Nigerian Immigration Service.
So how about training and retraining of the officers?
We have well-groomed officers in the service. They should just be allowed to do their work.
You said technology is not the issue. So what is the issue?
Technology is not the issue.
So what is the issue?
It's administrative bureaucracy.
Now, help us understand better. When you say administrative bureaucracy, what exactly is happening?
As a professional officer who has served for 35 years, I've worked with so many CGs. And they have worked. And they have delivered. This CG2 is working. And she's delivering. But the people must know from the person that is driving or the pilot, what have you done? How are you doing this thing? Because the reason why you're asking me this question now is because maybe people have not heard from the service itself. But as a professional and as somebody that knows the system, I know that we have done so much and we're still doing. We have the capacity to man the border of Nigeria effectively because of the training our officers have. I can tell you for free. While I was at the border as a young officer, I opened the Mubi Vintim border entry points. A luxurious bus came from Cameroon going into Mubi. I ascended into the bus and I brought out almost everybody that was in that vehicle that was a non-Nigerian, and I didn't touch a Nigerian. And the people were wondering, is this man using something? It's not, professionally.
That's because
if I'm staying with you now and you are a Cameroonian by the color of your clothes, because the Cameroonians believe in colored clothes. If you are a Nigerian, even if you speak Hausa, by virtue of detonation, we can separate between Nigerian Hausa and Niger. If a Fulani man from Cameroon, Gaundere, Meganga, they come in, Obembu, you can separate the Fulfulde from the one in Nigeria.
And that's because of training. But
if you are in Benin Republic,
and I need you to hold
the Yoruba language they speak in Benin Republic is not the same thing they speak in Lagos.
I need you to hold your thought because we need to go on a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. There's more for you. Stay with us.
Life is politics.
Introducing the new Jig Sachet. Whitening your whites has never been more affordable. Now you can keep whites shining brighter and disinfect by killing 99.9% of germs on your floors and other surfaces. Just jig it with Jig Sachet.
We're glad to have you back. You're still watching TVC Breakfast, and this is FCT Brief. We're still discussing border security, and we still have with us in the studio ACG James Sunday, retired. Now, I'd like to ask you, the government rolled out the Advanced Passenger Information System to monitor who comes into the country by air. How effective has this been in improving security at our airports and also closing noticeable gaps?
The Advanced Passenger Information System is a technology deployed that gives information to the agency in the receiving country even before the passenger departs his home country. As you are buying your ticket, your boarding pass, the information is already deposited with the agency in the country you are going to. So it is very, very easy for an individual to be tracked. It doesn't play any prank on individual because it is a non-interference system. It's a system of technology that as soon as there's interconnectivity and integration between the country of the host country and then the destination country, as soon as the person is buying a ticket or you are boarding, the signal comes in, the alert, and then every information about the person is with you. So if the person is on watch list, you know. If the person is on suspect index, you know. If the person is a wanted person, you know.
Now, do other agencies have access to this technology you have, or do they have their own technology? Because of recent, there was a terrorist kickman that was arrested through a sting operation by the DSS. And we understand at the border points, that person went through the process of getting probably his passport, buying his ticket. Now, did this communicate all this information to probably your server, and was it shared? And how did it happen that until the last minute before the ban was snapped, he was almost going to escape from Nigeria? What happened?
I would not agree with the fact that the person was about to escape from Nigeria. There's always opportunity for you to give a criminal opportunity to come to his wit's end. Because you need to establish a case against somebody before you can prosecute. So definitely he must have been monitored. And there must be a close collaboration. Otherwise, the individual would not have been nabbed. So I'm telling you, interagency collaboration is apt and very, very robust. So for an individual or group of individuals to be intercepted at the port of departure is just like giving the opportunity to use the last joker.
Okay. So what kind of, how do we now improve overall internal security, border security? What would be your recommendation? Because earlier you have called on the minister to allow the CG to work in the immigration. Aside that, what other recommendations would you be proposing?
I didn't say the minister should allow the CG to work. I said they should allow them to speak on what they are doing. So that the world will know. Instead of the ministry speaking on behalf of the service, let the service speak. Because they have a head of media who should speak on behalf of the service if there's any information that should be ruled out. Because there's things for public engagement and public enlightenment. Exactly. People need to know what's happening. Otherwise, anybody that doesn't know what's happening will say, okay, the system is not working. But if the system is speaking out, people will definitely know. So there must be opportunity for the agency to do what they know to do and tell the world that this is what we are doing. Every agency of government is doing. You can see the defense director of defense information. They read out the number of arrests, the number of kidnapping, the number of bandits that were decimated. So that's the way it's supposed to be. That's even at advanced level, at the military level. So there must be information dissemination. It's very, very apt for the public. The public must be engaged and must be informed and educated on what's happening. Not necessarily through the media houses like we are doing now, but directly from the agencies. That was what we were doing when we were there. And it must continue because Nigeria is one government. There's a continuum and there's continuation. All right.
Well, we must say thank you so much for your time with us on the program. It was a pleasure speaking with you this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, TJ.
Just before you hand over to Lagos, I think it's a challenge to the CG of immigration. Come up and speak for yourself. Of course. People need to know what exactly you're doing. If you're working, let the public know.
And what is also the willingness of them coming out to speak?
That is why this challenge is there.
So we've had situations where we reach out to some of these people and they will refuse to come to the media to speak. So this is a challenge to every head of ministry, agency. Whenever we call to you to speak, it is your duty to speak to us. Nigerians will want to hear from you. Well, that's our program today. We'll hand you over to our Lagos studio where Veronica and the rest of the crew, Atoma and the rest of the crew are standing by to continue with the rest of the show.
Oh, thank you so much, and a beautiful conversation you had there with your guest. I love the way the man talks with so much energy. Well, back here in Lagos, Lamide is standing by to give us stories that are trending on social media.
I'm back.